All right, Mike, you got me?
I got you, man. You got me?
I got you. All right. This is
30 minutes later, we did it.
we uh we are officially live, man. This is episode 1 of I guess what we'll call it the Divorced Dads Club, right?
Yeah, I guess we can call it that. I don't love that
I
name.
know we'll have to figure something out. So obviously this is something that I mean shit, man, we've been talking about this for like a year plus now, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, yeah, divorce club. I mean, like club sounds like something you want to be a part of. Divorce is just not one of them clubs. So
Ex-
we'll come up with something better eventually.
Yeah, so it's I mean, no better time to do this when we're all isolated and can't do anything else, right? So we've
Driving me crazy.
we've been talking about trying to document some of our conversations and share our thoughts and kind of see where it goes. So this is it, man. A rainy Thursday night in April. Let's kick this thing off.
Oh, by the way, happy birthday ish.
Yeah, it's our
Yep,
birthday month. So yeah, I mean we're
yep.
getting old. So, all right. So, obviously we've had some conversations ahead of time about this. Like we fucking laughed about the fact that shit, we just spent the better part of an hour trying to figure out like how to even like get ourselves on the same like camera pane. So we're doing
Yeah,
this on Zoom to start. We will figure this out, whether it's Google Hangouts, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, Instagram Live, like we'll figure out the best medium, but this
yeah,
our kickstart to
yeah.
start. So
Apple and Android, man, they just don't get along.
no, they don't. So we this will be we're not professionals, disclaimers. We've never done this before. Like this will be choppy. I'm sure we'll mess up, all that good stuff. That'll make it real. But you
Yeah,
know,
we'll clean it up. This first episode's not gonna be very clean at all. We're
yeah.
just trying to get it out there first.
All right, so we have decided to do this. So, like, we'll get into our backstories, but obviously, we've known each other for a long time, and we're both going on 37. At the
Yeah,
end of the
yeah.
month. We both got kids, have gone through divorces, and I think it's like what I really cherish about our friendship. I mean, there's a lot of things, but obviously, like you and I can relate over shared experiences, and we talk about some shit that's pretty real. I think sometimes like it's easy to get caught up in conversations, especially with buddies that maybe you only see a couple times a year of just hey, how's life,
Well,
how's the kids, how's the weather, and like I
yeah,
think
keep it light.
we are fortunate enough to in some of these moments to really kind of peel back the onion, and like I feel completely at ease talking about like some real shit going on in my life with you, and vice versa. And so it's just kind of been interesting as we've talked, especially over the last year and a half on some really real shit, and just kind of came to the realization that like, hey man, there's a lot of people out there that are in their 30s, 40s that have gone through some shit, and not a lot of relatable content out there. So, whether people can relate to this or not, hopefully they do. Might as well start documenting some of this stuff and see where it goes, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, as great as I am at giving advice, I sure as hell am not very good at asking or talking to people about advice. So if there was stuff out there that I could have just watched on my own, would have helped me out a lot. But so yeah, I really do think this would be beneficial to those people, especially that don't like to talk to other people about what they have going on. So I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, so we will. I mean, what's our goal? We're gonna try and do this hopefully once a week, right? We'll see where it goes, and for this first one, I think it's just obviously we know each other, but we'll level set and talk about where we are today and how we've gotten here, and kind of go from there. But I mean, shit for you and I, like what? I mean, we're going on. I mean, we're middle school days, right? I mean, going back to playing
Yeah,
sports in
I,
high school and all that stuff, right?
yeah. I mean, I didn't go to your school, but when I played in the little league and we were on a team together, and so I knew you back then, and kind of off and on from there. But yeah, I mean, basically, I've known you since damn near like 12 years old.
Yeah, man. So it's we go, a couple decades back, and it's been cool. Like I mean, we'll get into our stories, but like with me and you, and like I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with this. And like I think it's a um you know, the sign of true friendship is, you know, if you can go an extended period of time without talking to that person, and then when you finally do reconnect, it's like, you know, you pick up where things left off. And I think that's definitely true of me and you, right? Because, you know, I went off to school after high school, and you kind of did your own thing. And, you know, we've kind of actually worked at some same companies before, and then kind of drifted apart. And so, like, not to say that we've been like close throughout the last 20 years, but there's been like an ebb and
Right.
flow. But it's kind of neat that, you know, and we're probably closer now than we've ever been, but it's just kind of
Oh yeah.
weird how over the, you know, basically the last 20 years that we've still kept in touch the way we have. 25 years, I guess.
Yeah, I would definitely say the last few years we've become probably definitely the closest we've ever been. I mean, I don't think it's even close. So, yeah, off and on throughout high school, and honestly, in high school even. I mean, not till basically senior years when I kind of came back around to the group that we kind of all have now.
Yep.
So, so
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's been up and down.
Yeah, and we'll you know, I'm sure some stories will come out of this. So I guess that's the other thing too. We probably need to address, like, you know, again, like why we're doing this. And I want to, you know, over time, I think we'll probably, like, you know, inevitably happen. Like we'll share stories. I'll rag on you, you'll rag on me. Like we'll, you know, we'll tell stories from high school, college days, like all that good stuff. But like I
Oh yeah.
really want to, as we progress with this thing, you know, talk about relationships, not necessarily like romantic relationships with women, but like relationships with, you know, friends, families, like kids, and that stuff. And you know, again, going back to, you know, especially here in the last year and a half for me, like I've spent a ton of time talking to people, reading tons of articles, YouTube videos. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, but it just, I feel like it caters to folks that are kind of trying to figure out their person and start their life. And so whether this is kind of early 20s, early 30s, trying to find your person you want to settle down with, have kids, like, and that's great. And I think that's important. But for folks that have been married, and especially have had kids or been in a long-term relationship and have kids from it, that obviously layers some additional complexities in there. And so just trying to navigate life again, kind of that midlife 30s and 40s. I think you and I have enough stories and experiences that we can swap and tell. And so that's
Oh
kind of the goal of doing this, right?
yeah, definitely, definitely, and it's definitely geared more towards men. As far as obviously we're both men, uh, but I do think it would benefit women as well. I mean, it's just there's just if if you haven't gone through it, you don't really have any. You just don't know like what it's like. You don't know what it's like after having a family and then being divorced and trying to be somebody who's single again and go back out and date. It's just there's I just have never talked to anybody that really could give me good guidance. And, you know, obviously a lot of mistakes were made. So lots of mistakes mean lots of advice. So I think we're full of advice for people. So
And isn't it so funny too? Because, like, I mean, we've got such a good friend network, and you know, a lot of these folks that you know, it's a different path, right? Like, you know, they maybe spent their, you know, early 20s or all their entire 20s, and now, you know, they're getting married, they're starting to have kids that are younger, and you know, they've kind of just lived a different life experience than you and I have. And so when you try and talk to them about some of the stuff that's on your mind or what you're going through, like, obviously they're supportive, and they'll give you, you know, their advice and their perspective the best that they can. But you know, it's just through a different lens, right? And so
yeah,
when you can meet
exactly.
people that have been through similar experiences, like, it just hits differently, right? Like you can relate. And
Yeah, it's well, one, you feel like they know what they're saying. They're not just telling you like what they read in a book or what they heard somebody say before. Like it's just not the same when you're like, all right, this person's gone through it. They're telling me exactly. They're not telling me all the good stuff. They're not telling me all of the just you need to do this. They're like telling me what's real, like how they were feeling, even if it was something bad. And then if you felt that way too, you don't feel so isolated, like you're the only one that feels that way, and that it's normal, and that you can get through it. It just helps. I think it helps that in any aspect of life. But
so yeah, no, 100%. And I think, you know, neither one of us are psychologists. Neither one of us claim to have figured this shit out. Like, I think, you know, especially as we keep talking, you know, you would probably disagree, but I think you've got it figured out more at this point than than I
well,
do.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, maybe, but not really. No, I mean, I'm getting there. Like, I could definitely give good advice. I feel like, but yeah, I'm still working on me. So
Yeah. So we'll And, toward the end of this, we'll kind of talk about, obviously some of the things that at least I want to dig into, because I think you've given me, some really good perspective. But, so we'll, so quick background, because I think, again, it's good for perspective for everybody that may listen to this. And again, if they don't, no big deal. Like I told you all along, like doing this is just more therapeutic for me than anything. And so backstory, with me, Indianapolis guy, lived here my whole life, went to, Franklin Central, two parents that were, married. I've got an older brother, a younger sister. So I would characterize it as a pretty normal, upbringing. Had a really good friend group. Obviously you one of them throughout high school. Again, super supportive parents, was pretty active. I was a, sports guy, jock, whatever in high school. Went on to college with one of my really, good friends, best friend, Scott Vogel, that at Franklin, played tennis in college. And, I think one of the critical, turning points in my life was my sophomore year in college when, the woman that I was dating at the time, we're 4 months, 5 months in, and find out that she's pregnant. And obviously, when you're 19, 20 years old and something like that happens, it's it just kind of flips your world on its head. And one day you're just living the college experience, and then that kind of hits you. And so just trying to now figure out, like, oh shit, like, I've got now this responsibility, and it's important to do the right thing. And so we'll dive into all that, because I think that point in at that moment in my life, I don't think I realized how big of a deal that was. It's like, all right, well, here's just another thing that came up, got to deal with this, right? And so
Right.
I've always been a problem solver and all that stuff. And so that for me, and not trying to downplay the importance of the significance, but it's like that's now like a task. Like you got to figure this shit out, right? And so, um, you know, we end up getting married, and that woman turned into my wife, and we get married a couple years later. We have additional kids. So I had the first one at 20, had another one at 24, and then had another one at 27. So at 27 years old, I've got 3 kids. I'm married at 4 years at that point, and um, still kind of don't even really know who you are at that point in life. And I think that's when things start to happen. And obviously you're in the workforce for a couple years at that point. And, with kids, obviously there's additional stresses, and I think in marriage in general, you're always going to run into stresses, right? And it's how you either grow together or grow apart. And, we grew apart. And, there's a lot that goes into that. And again, we'll dig into it, but ended up getting divorced. That was about 4.5 years ago, and moved into a new place, kind of resettled on my own. And, great co-parenting relationship now, fast forwarding, like 50-50 custody. And she's a great mom. She's remarried, and super happy for him and that whole situation. It wasn't always like that. It took a little bit of
Takes
time
work. Yep.
to get to that point. But, post divorce, and I think this is where a lot of our conversation will come in, is like, there's a lot of shit that you got to kind of deal with and process and figure out. And, there's been some relationships that have happened since then, and trying to work all that stuff out. And so that's kind of where, I'm coming from my perspective. So a guy that, had kids super young, not necessarily super young, but definitely young, got
That's
married,
pretty young.
got divorced, and trying to navigate post life. So we'll obviously dig into that, because I think a lot of that experiences for me play into, I guess, how I operate, how I think, and how it affects potential future relationships. So that's my backstory. So you wanna give yours?
Yeah, I'll try to go through it quick, not boring everybody too much, but bore everybody. So yeah, I come from a family of four. I got two younger brothers and an older sister. We are a Catholic family, Catholic, Irish, and Greek. So lots of alcohol, lots of drinking, lots of families, big family events, big parties. I mean, if you see My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it's that movie is literally how it is. It's not even. It's exactly how it is. So, um, being Catholic and having a big family, as many cousins and aunts and uncles I have, literally before me and my sister, I don't think we had one divorce in the entire family. So growing up, went to Catholic school, not like super like religion. I mean, we didn't go to church every Sunday or anything like that. Like most Catholics, just Easter and Christmas. uh, but yeah, so went to Franklin Central High School. Uh, Hung around with Derek and them for a little bit. I had other friend groups. Basically, when I got there, I didn't really know. I knew Derek, and I knew a couple other people, but I went from 8 years at one school with about 22 people in my class to FC, which was huge for me. So that took a little adjusting to get around to. I had to figure out who was, who I should hang around with and stuff. So it took me a couple of years, but yeah. Then after that, just did the work thing. I didn't go to college. Just trying to find a career. I ended up finding one that I thought was going to be good for me, and it was going to make good money, and I didn't need to go to college, and it was just going to be a delivery driver. So right about close to that same time, I met Jessie, which will be my future wife there. And yeah, we so basically throughout high school, I did not really have relationships. Like I had girls I dated, but like I was not a relationship guy. Like there was no long-term girlfriend, any of that stuff. Now I'll go into my one long-term girlfriend in high school later, but it's another story for another day. It's not out. But anyway, but when I met Jessie, I was just because of how my family is, I was ready to get married. I mean, I was ready. I was ready to settle down, ready to have a family. I always thought about having a family one-on-one. So we got married in '05 and had our daughter in '07. Had my son in '09. And yeah, so everything was going great. And then '09 happened when the economy went to shit and the housing industry went down, and lots of layoffs happened. I was one of them. Just being young, just didn't prepare for it, and just it was just a whirlwind of things from that. I mean, we lost the house. We just a lot of stuff happened, and again, we'll go into maybe the finer details later, but we fell. I mean, we just couldn't work through it all. It was just too much for us. So we ended up getting a divorce, and it's been it's going almost 8 years now. So it's been a little longer for me on the divorce thing, not having new relationships, but um, yeah, I mean it's been a work in progress. Like when we first separated and got divorced, the co-parenting and everything was pretty good still, even though we were still working through everything that happened. Then I got into a couple of relationships, and it kind of took a turn. But right now, like I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, it's great co-parenting going on right now. I mean, we communicate. Everything is exactly how it needs to be. The kids are always coming first. Like, it's honestly, it's great. So that part right now I have on, really good. The rest of the stuff I'm still trying to figure out. But
Right.
so yeah, that's a quick brush over my background.
And like, I'll make the point because it's because you meet enough people where like they've gone through divorces, and obviously like the ideal situation is to get to this, to the point where like from a co-parenting standpoint, it's like you're at such a level of respect where it's like, hey, like I respect your new life. I respect that, maybe you're remarried or whatever. And the fact that like we can communicate about kid stuff, and it's as professional or amicable as possible. Cause you hear so many bad stories about like,
Oh yeah,
you know,
tons of them.
courts and arguments, and kids get put in the middle, right? So like you and I both, like, we can raise our hand and say, we are in good situations. Now, it wasn't always like that, right? Because, it takes
Correct.
to get to that point, but
There's some work. There's yeah, definitely some things to go through, but all in all, it's where it should be, and it's definitely good, 100%.
and that's one of the things, obviously when we, put this out there, and we've talked to some of our close friends and family, and they know that we're doing this. And I think it's important to talk about, like, we're going to try and be as real as possible, because like we want, again, for therapeutic reasons, just for me and you, I think it's good, but just to resonate and make it real, like you got to be able to draw on past experiences. And so we're going to do that to the best of our ability, but at the same time, um, whether it's a certain wording or however you want to phrase it, like we need to be respectful of, our exes and obviously maybe our children that may hear about some of this stuff. So it's important that we say that at least, right? So,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree.
so, so yeah, I mean, I think like with us going forward, like we're gonna share, some personal stories, and for me, again, to elaborate a little bit. So post divorce, so I'm coming up on 5 years removed. You're 8 years. I took probably the better part of a year and a half from my divorce before I dived into what I would call like my only serious relationship. And that's been a kind of on again off again thing for the better part of 3 years. And there's a lot that kind of comes into that. And so I will spend a lot of my time in future episodes with you kind of peeling back like specifics within that relationship, but ultimately like why I acted or reacted in certain ways, I think based on previous stuff.
Yeah,
And you've got not necessarily the same kind of lens, but you've got a similar kind of
pretty
thing.
similar. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, similar but different.
Yeah. So if there's I mean, again, I wanted to kind of keep the first session, kind of short, just to give people a little bit of an understanding of our backgrounds. Like, is there anything else that you want to kind of just put out there as far as what you're expecting to get from this, or what you want to
Well,
talk about?
yeah, honestly, I don't even know. Like, I'm kind of gonna just go with the flow here. Like, when you brought this to me, talking about maybe we should do this, like, I agree. Some of our conversations are probably pretty insightful or whatever you want to call it. Like, pretty. I would think they would benefit other people, like our pain, other people's play, whatever. But yeah, man, I want to think it'll help me and you. Just talking in general helps. Like, I got to get better at talking about my stuff, anyways. Like, I'm really good at listening and really good at, like I said, giving advice. But as far as me actually talking to other people, I just about my stuff, I just don't do it very often. So, I mean, my family didn't even know we were going to get a divorce. So basically, the day I told them we were going to get a divorce, I mean, they didn't even know what was going on. So, like, that's how much I don't talk about it. So, which isn't healthy, by the way. Not a good way to do it. Definitely eats at you. So, yeah, I think maybe this has just helped me maybe talk a little bit more about my stuff. And yeah, man, hopefully help other people, honestly. I mean, I know at times that I was in a rough spot. It would be nice to have even just somebody saying something similar to what I was feeling. So,
And we'll spend a few minutes here real quick talking about that. And so like when talk about how like your parents had no idea, your friends, like just so people can get some insight in the way that you think, like, because I think this is just again like a problem with specifically men. Why is it that you think that nobody had any idea that you were going through that shit?
because I just didn't let, I would hide it. I would always put on a face. I wouldn't go tell them about an argument. I wouldn't tell them what we were struggling with. Yeah, I just kept it in. I just didn't, I don't know. I mean, that's really probably what it was. I would just try not to bother anybody else with my issues. I guess I figured everyone's already got problems anyways. So, but did you? Did you have any idea, or did you think?
Yeah, I mean, and it's just, I mean, I would tell you, I think there's more awareness today about the whole like toxic masculinity thing than there's ever been in the past. But like that whole like guys are supposed to be the rock, and crying or sharing your feelings are taboo or whatever. And that's what's been, I think, really enlightening with you here over especially the last couple of years really is you start to navigate through some of the stuff. I'm like, man, like this doesn't make sense. Like a lot of this stuff feels weird. Like I got to talk to somebody about some of this stuff. And like some of our conversations, and like we'll be at like a bar or something, and we're having a beer, and like I'm sitting there and like I'm starting to talk to you, and like I can feel like some of these emotions start to like well up inside of me. I'm like, oh my, like I'm gonna break down in this bar talking to my buddy, and it's like even like me getting to that point, there's like a level of like shame or embarrassment, and like that in itself is like a problem. And I mean I know so many of my friends that I just, and that's again, man, that's what I appreciate about you is because you're one of the only ones that like I feel like, I mean at my core like I can literally talk to you about like anything that is on my mind, and I don't feel judgment. I don't feel like I have to reserve stuff. And if there's anything that I would want to get out of this, and again, we're trying to gear this toward guys. It's like, man, like, dude, like we're all human, right? Like we've all, especially if you're in situations like us where you've gone through some shit, man. And like we're just talking about like relationships. Like, I mean, we've even got into like, I mean, I've got a whole litany of shit that doesn't have to do with relationships. That's whether it's work related stuff, financial stuff, gambling, like some legals. Like, I mean, I've got, everybody makes mistakes, everybody fucks up, and to be able to actually share that stuff and be open about it, not feel judgmental. Like you need to surround yourself with people where you feel comfortable having those conversations, and you're one of the select few of my like circle that like I feel completely at ease, and obviously now we're documenting all of it. So
Yeah. Now we don't care who hears.
that's right.
Yeah, I think about if like some of our previous conversations had ever been recorded, like
Oh man.
we definitely got some we got some good ones. And
So
me, sorry, I was just saying at a bar, like I mean, it doesn't matter who's around me. I just kind of lose focus and just talk, and then I get loud, and yeah, that's just how it is.
that's very, very true. So I think for the next couple episodes we'll probably again with the right approach we'll probably talk about what led to our divorces, but I think all that is still prelude into the core of like what I want to talk about going
Yeah,
forward. This is like mindset of like that single parent that you've got your kids that are your world, and that's for us that's the most important thing to us, right? For
100%.
kids,
Yep.
and making sure that they have a good childhood, good head on their shoulders and all that stuff. And then obviously probably the next thing is work and making sure that we can provide. We're both pretty active guys, we've got hobbies, so that's important. But then obviously like through all of that, like, and dealing with all the baggage or shit, because at this point in life everybody's got a story, right? Is like how do you frame that up? How do you put that in perspective? How do you deal with past demons? Like that's the shit that like I really want to get into, and things that you've helped me with. And so that's what I want to talk about the most with you on this. So
Yeah.
any last thoughts before we end episode 1 for the crew out there?
Yeah, man. No, other than just, yeah, I really hope somehow this, even if it's just one person, it can help them. I mean, I already know, like I said, it helps us, so I guess it's already going to help no matter what. But yeah, man, just I don't know. I'm ready to keep doing this. I like it. I like it. I definitely will like it better when we're more focused on maybe a topic, just so we can, delve in a little bit deeper. This is definitely very surfacey. Like, I don't know, you're not going to get much out of this episode other than who we are. But yeah, man, I'm ready. I'm ready to roll.
All right, man. And obviously here, hopefully in a month or two, it'll be better when we can do
Actually, be
in person and not spend an hour and a half trying to figure out how we digitally
yeah,
get here. So,
yeah, definitely, man.
all right. Well, Mike, till next time,
All
buddy.
right, buddy. See ya.